Here's a problem worth sitting with for a second before we get into the physics. Every few months, a headline shows up that says scientists have disproved the Big Bang, and every few months, physicists like me have to put down our coffee and explain patiently that this is not how any of this works. Science does not operate by yes or no announcements. Nobody at CERN walked into a press conference and crossed something off a list. What actually happened is messier, weirder, and honestly more interesting than any tabloid headline could capture. So let me tell you what is really going on down there in that frozen tunnel under the Swiss-French border. The Large Hadron Collider does not have a telescope pointed backward in time. It cannot see the beginning. What it does is smash particles together at speeds so close to the speed of light that the collisions release energy densities not seen since the universe was a fraction of a second old, and then it watches what comes spraying out of that collision. That is the whole game. You are not watching history happen. You are looking at debris and trying to reconstruct the rules that must have been operating to produce that particular kind of debris. Here is the picture I want you to hold on to. Imagine you take two mechanical clocks, the old-fashioned kind with gears and springs and tiny coiled metal parts, and you slam them together at incredible speed. Gears fly everywhere. Springs unwind in midair. Tiny screws scatter across the floor. Now your job, your actual scientific job, is to look at that wreckage and figure out how a clock works. Not just how it works, but how it was built, what its internal logic was, what made it tick in the first place. That sounds almost absurd when I say it about clocks. But that is precisely what particle physicists do every single day. We smash matter together and we study the wreckage to infer the deep operating rules of reality. So when something in that wreckage does not match what our equations predicted, that is not a headline that says everything is wrong. It is a clue. It is one gear lying on the floor that should not be there, and now we have to ask why. The crisis in cosmology right now is not the death of the Big Bang. It is the slow, fascinating unraveling of the idea that the beginning of the universe was a simple, clean explosion from nothing. Reality, once again, refuses to be simple, and frankly, I find that delightful. Let me give you the first profound truth, because this one keeps me up at night in the best possible way. It is called matter-antimatter asymmetry, and it touches on the most basic question you could ever ask. Why does anything exist at all? Every particle of matter has a mirror twin called an antiparticle. Same mass, opposite charge. When a particle meets its antiparticle, they annihilate each other completely and turn into pure radiation, pure light, nothing solid left behind. Now here is the deeply strange part. Our best mathematics, the equations that have worked beautifully for nearly a century, predict that the early universe should have produced matter and antimatter in perfectly equal amounts. Equal amounts. Which means they should have annihilated each other completely, every single particle finding its antiparticle partner, leaving behind a universe of pure light and absolutely nothing else. No stars, no planets. No you, sitting there listening to this. Just radiation, forever, an empty cosmic hum with nobody around to hear it. But that obviously did not happen, because here we are, made of matter, sitting on a planet made of matter, orbiting a star made of matter. Something tipped the scales. For every billion pairs of matter and antimatter that should have canceled out, it seems like roughly one extra particle of matter was left standing when the dust settled. 1 in a billion. That tiny, almost laughably small imbalance is the entire reason a universe of stuff exists instead of a universe of silent light. CERN measurements of baryon decay, the way certain heavy particles break apart, have shown a subtle, rule-breaking asymmetry between matter and antimatter behavior. It is small, it is precise, it is real. And here is the chilling part, the part that should give you goosebumps if you are paying attention. The standard model of particle physics, our most successful theory, the one that has predicted result after result with stunning accuracy, cannot fully account for an asymmetry this large. The math we have does produce a tiny preference for matter, but nowhere near enough to explain why a whole universe of galaxies survived instead of nothing. That means our current textbook laws are missing something. Not a small footnote. A massive piece of the cosmic puzzle, sitting right there in the wreckage of every clock we smash together, waiting for someone clever enough to spot the pattern. Now let me give you the second profound truth, and this one reshapes how we even picture the beginning itself. It is called quark-gluon plasma, and it forces us to throw out the cartoon image of the Big Bang as a single dot exploding outward like a firework. Inside that 27-kilometer ring, frozen colder than deep space so the magnets can function, protons are accelerated to within a hair's breadth of light speed and smashed together. For an unimaginably brief instant, the collision creates conditions so hot and so dense that protons and neutrons simply stop existing as separate particles. Their inner components, quarks and gluons, the fundamental building blocks bound tightly inside every proton you have ever touched, suddenly break free and swim around in a boiling, churning fluid called quark-gluon plasma. It behaves almost like a liquid, an unbelievably hot, perfect liquid with almost no resistance to flow. This is where the old picture starts to crack. The classic version of the Big Bang you probably learned in school treats it like an explosion, a single point releasing energy outward into space. But what the quark-gluon plasma research increasingly suggests is something different and frankly more elegant. The early universe was not so much an explosion as a phase transition. Think about water freezing into ice. The water does not explode into ice. It transitions. The molecules rearrange themselves from a chaotic, flowing liquid state into a structured, ordered solid state, and the whole substance changes character without anything blowing up at all. That is increasingly how physicists picture the first instance after the beginning. Not a bang in the sense of fireworks, but space and the fundamental fields of nature transitioning, precisely like water freezing into ice, from a boiling, chaotic, formless plasma into the structured reality of particles, forces, and eventually atoms that we see around us today. The universe did not explode into existence. It froze into existence, in a sense, cooling through a series of dramatic phase changes, each one locking in new structure, new rules, new physics. That is a profoundly different mental picture than the one most people carry around, and it comes directly from staring at the wreckage of trillions of these clock collisions and noticing the pattern in how matter behaves at extreme temperature. Now for the third profound truth, and this is the big one, the wall that every physicist eventually runs into and has to stare down honestly. It is called the quantum gravity barrier, and it sits at time zero itself. We have two extraordinarily successful theories describing the universe. General relativity describes gravity, large masses, the curvature of space and time, how planets orbit stars, and how light bends around massive objects. Quantum mechanics describes the very small, the behavior of particles, probability, the strange fuzzy nature of reality at subatomic scales. Both theories work beautifully within their own domains. Both have been tested to extraordinary precision, and both violently disagree with each other the moment you try to describe a situation where gravity and quantum effects matter at the same time, in the same place. The beginning of the universe is precisely that situation. An unimaginably small region containing an unimaginably large amount of energy, which means quantum effects matter, but also enough mass and energy concentrated tightly enough that gravity matters too. Try to combine general relativity and quantum mechanics in that regime, and the mathematics does not just get difficult, it breaks completely. The equations spit out infinities, meaningless results, numbers that blow up towards something with no physical interpretation whatsoever. This is not a flaw in the Big Bang theory as a description of what happened a fraction of a second after the beginning and onward. That part of the theory works wonderfully and is backed by mountains of evidence. The cosmic microwave background, the abundance of light elements, the large-scale structure of galaxies. But the theory becomes fundamentally incomplete the instant you try to roll the clock all the way back to the absolute origin, to time zero itself. Our mathematical tools simply stop functioning there. We do not have a theory of quantum gravity yet. Nobody does, not fully. It remains one of the deepest open problems in all of physics. So, when you hear that scientists at CERN may have found cracks in the Big Bang theory, what is actually being described, stripped of all the tabloid drama, is this. We have found genuine, fascinating, hard-won evidence that our simple early picture of the universe as a single clean explosion is incomplete. The matter-antimatter imbalance shows our particle physics laws are missing pieces. The quark-gluon plasma research reshapes the explosion into something closer to a phase transition. And the quantum gravity barrier shows our mathematics simply cannot describe the very first instant at all. None of this means physics has failed. It means physics is working precisely as it should. Finding the cracks in an old theory is not the end of understanding. It is the beginning of a better one. Every great leap in physics has come from exactly this kind of moment, a careful observation that did not fit the comfortable old picture, forcing brilliant and stubborn people to dig deeper and build something more accurate. Newton's gravity worked beautifully until it did not, and then we got general relativity. The atom was supposed to be indivisible until it was not, and then we got the entire field of nuclear and particle physics that built the very collider we have been talking about this whole time. I find something genuinely thrilling in that pattern, something almost playful about how the universe operates. It seems to enjoy handing us a theory that works just well enough to be useful, just well enough to build technology and make predictions, and then quietly hiding a deeper, stranger mechanism underneath it, waiting for someone curious enough and stubborn enough to go looking. That is not a depressing thought to me. That is the most exciting thought I can imagine. It means there is always more gears scattered on the floor, always another collision to study, always another pattern hiding in the wreckage. So the next time you see a headline screaming that scientists have disproved the beginning of everything, remember the clocks. Remember that nobody is reading a history book down there in that frozen tunnel. They are smashing things together and sifting through the broken pieces, looking for the gear that should not be there, the spring that unwound the wrong way, the tiny detail that reveals a little more about how the whole magnificent mechanism actually ticks. That is not a story of disproof. That is the story of science doing precisely what it has always done best, refusing to settle for a comfortable answer when a deeper and more magnificent one is still waiting to be found.